Have you ever noticed how some people seem to have an almost supernatural control over those around them without saying a word? They don't yell, they don't beg, they simply withdraw. And suddenly everything changes. The energy shifts. The other person starts questioning, pursuing, feeling an inexplicable emptiness. And you wonder, how do they do it? In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal exactly how to regain power over someone who's ignoring you, using the same psychological principles that have transformed thousands of ordinary people into masters of attraction. Have you been desperately chasing someone's attention who's pulled away? Do you find yourself constantly checking your phone, waiting for a response that never comes? Stop doing that right now. What you're about to discover will forever change the dynamics of your relationships. And no, these aren't cheap tricks or manipulations. This is about deeply understanding human psychology and using it to reconnect with yourself first, and then with the person who's been ignoring you. Most people react to rejection in the worst possible way, begging for attention, constantly sending messages, appearing desperate. Neil Strauss described it perfectly when he said, "Desperation repels, abundance attracts." And it's precisely this principle that we're going to explore today. When someone ignores you and you keep pursuing them, you're communicating scarcity, you're demonstrating that you have no other options, that you're emotionally dependent on that person. And nothing kills attraction faster than emotional dependency. The first fundamental change you need to make is understanding the power of conscious unavailability. Most of us think that being always available, always attentive, always responding quickly is a demonstration of interest. But psychology works exactly the opposite way. When you become too predictable, you become a constant, not a variable, and what's constant becomes invisible over time. Neil explained that what is scarce becomes valuable. Think about it for a moment. Isn't it true that we value more what is difficult to obtain? Don't we desire more intensely what we feel we could lose? This isn't manipulation. It's simply basic human psychology. When someone takes you for granted, when they know you'll always be there no matter how they treat you, what incentive do they have to value you? Right now, I want you to do an exercise with me. Close your eyes for a moment, if you can do so safely. Imagine your energy as a limited resource, like a battery. Every time you chase someone who ignores you, every time you anxiously check if they've responded, every time you obsessively think about that person, you're draining that battery. Visualize how your energy escapes from you. Now imagine what would happen if you conserved that energy, if you kept it inside you, if you used it to improve your own life instead of wasting it on someone who isn't valuing you right now. Can you feel that difference? That sensation of regained power is the first step toward reclaiming your attractiveness. And we'll talk about that in the next point, because understanding how to recover and redirect your energy is fundamental to rekindling the interest of someone who's ignoring you. The second key principle is what Neil Strauss calls the paradox of interest. When someone ignores you, your natural instinct is to show more interest, thinking that if you demonstrate how much you care, the other person will change their attitude. But reality is completely opposite. In the world of human relationships, whoever shows more interest has less power. It's a simple but brutal equation. The paradox is this: to regain someone's interest when they're ignoring you, you must dramatically reduce your apparent level of interest. This doesn't mean you have to stop feeling what you feel. Your emotions are valid and real, but what you communicate externally must change. You can't control your emotions, Neil used to say, but you can control your actions. Here's an everyday example. Imagine you've always been available for that special person, immediately responding to their messages, canceling plans with friends if they suddenly invite you out, constantly showing how much you care. And one day, that person starts ignoring you. The instinctive response would be to intensify your efforts. But what would really work would be the opposite, starting to live your life as if that person weren't a priority. This means that when they finally contact you, perhaps you don't respond immediately. It means you'll post on social media about the interesting things you're doing, not artificially but genuinely living. It means developing such a full life that when that person returns, and they will, they'll wonder what they've been missing, and why you seem to be perfectly fine without their attention. I propose a practical exercise right now. Take your phone and configure the notifications for that specific person who's ignoring you. Silence them. Don't delete them. Simply make it so they no longer interrupt you. Every time you feel the urge to check if they've written to you, breathe deeply and repeat this mantra. My value doesn't depend on their attention. I am complete by myself. It seems simple, but this small action will begin to reprogram your brain, to change the energy dynamic. If this video is helping you, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. Activating the bell will ensure you don't miss any of these secrets that can transform your relationships. And now let's move to the third crucial point, the power of strategic silence. Silence is not the absence of communication. It's the most powerful form of communication that exists. When you stop filling all the spaces, when you stop constantly explaining yourself, you create a vacuum that the other person will feel the need to fill. Neil Strauss expressed it brilliantly. Silence is one of the great arts of conversation. When someone ignores you and you respond with conscious, non-reactive silence, you're communicating something profound, that you have enough self-love not to chase someone who doesn't value you at this moment. Strategic silence works because it activates one of the most basic human impulses, loss aversion. Psychological research has repeatedly shown that people are more motivated by the fear of losing something they already have than by the possibility of gaining something new. When you become silent after having always been available, you activate this primitive alarm in the other person's brain. But be careful, this silence must be authentic. You're not being quiet to manipulate, you're being quiet to reconnect with yourself, to recover your personal power. Silence allows you to observe patterns that previously went unnoticed. How you've been behaving, what messages you've been sending with your conduct, at what point the distancing really began. I now propose a practical exercise in conscious silence. The next time you feel the urge to contact that person who's ignoring you, give yourself 24 hours of space. During that time, every time you think about writing or calling them, redirect that energy toward yourself. It can be through physical exercise, a creative activity, a conversation with a friend who truly values you. After 24 hours, evaluate. Has anything changed in how you feel? Do you feel more centered, more in control of your emotions? Silence allows you something crucial, to observe yourself without the noise of external validation. Have you noticed how some people panic when you don't respond? It's not because they really miss you, it's because your silence takes away their narrative control. While you're talking, you're still in their game, but when you're silent, you change the rules. And this leads us directly to the fourth principle, rebuilding your attractiveness through what Neil calls the principle of investment. Investment is a fascinating concept in psychology. Basically, it means that we value more what we've invested time, energy, emotions, or resources in. When someone ignores you and you keep pursuing them, the investment is completely one-sided. You're investing everything and the other person nothing. You need to invert this dynamic. Neil Strauss explained it this way. Attraction is not a choice. That is, you can't simply convince someone to feel attracted through logical arguments or emotional pleas. Attraction responds to much more primitive and deeper stimuli. When someone is ignoring you, your task is not to convince them of your value. Your task is to rebuild your own value and let that person rediscover it for themselves. This means focusing on yourself in a way you haven't done before. Have you ever asked yourself what aspects of yourself you've neglected while focusing on that relationship? What friendships have you put aside? What passions have you abandoned? What personal goals have you postponed? This is the time to recover those parts of you. Here's a transformative exercise. Make a list of 3 aspects of your life that you've neglected while focused on that relationship. It could be your physical health, your friendships, your professional development, your hobbies. Now choose one of those aspects and commit to investing in it for the next 2 weeks, not as a strategy to win that person back, but as an act of self-love. Maybe it's going back to the gym, reconnecting with an old friend, picking up a creative project, or learning something new. The important thing is that it's something that reminds you of who you are beyond that relationship. Because here's the secret. When you fall back in love with your own life, you become magnetic to others. And this happens because genuine self-confidence is irresistible. Not arrogance, not false security, but that quiet certainty that you're okay with yourself, that your value doesn't depend on external validation. That's the kind of energy that makes people who previously ignored you start to wonder what has changed about you, what they're missing out on. Are you enjoying these tips? Make sure to comment below which strategy has seemed most useful to you so far. Your participation helps me create content that's increasingly tailored to what you really need. And now we come to the fifth and most powerful principle, what Neil Strauss calls social proof and the mirror effect. This is possibly the most transformative concept of all, because it will not only help you regain the attention of someone who's ignoring you, but it will fundamentally change how you relate to all people in your life. Social proof is a psychological phenomenon whereby people tend to value more what others value. If someone ignores you, but suddenly perceives that other people find you interesting, valuable, and attractive, their perception of you will automatically change, not because you've intrinsically changed, but because external validation acts as a confirmation of your value. Human beings are creatures of social comparison, Neil explained. We're constantly evaluating our environment to determine what's valuable and what's not. When you expand your social circle, when you generate new connections, when you surround yourself with people who genuinely enjoy your company, you're creating a powerful field of attraction. The mirror effect, on the other hand, refers to how people tend to reflect the energy you project. If you're projecting desperation, you'll receive rejection. If you project abundance, self-confidence, and well-being, you'll attract exactly the same. It's an almost infallible psychological law. Here's a practical example. Imagine that you've been chasing someone who ignores you, showing anxiety, insecurity, constantly seeking validation. What kind of energy are you projecting? Scarcity. Now imagine that you completely change your approach. You stop pursuing, focus on your growth, expand your social circle, generate new enriching experiences. The next time that person sees you or hears about you, they'll perceive a completely different energy. And here's the magic. Unconsciously, they'll begin to reflect that new energy back to you. I now propose the most powerful exercise of all. It's called the Circle of Abundance and consists of 3 steps. First, identify 3 people in your life who genuinely value you, who enjoy your company, who make you feel good about yourself. They can be friends, family members, even co-workers with whom you have a good relationship. Second, commit to spending quality time with these people over the next few weeks. Not time with your phone in hand, waiting for a message from the person ignoring you, but time really present, connected, enjoying the moment. Third, after each encounter, reflect on how you feel. You'll notice that your energy changes, that your perspective widens, that your sense of personal value strengthens. You're literally reconnecting with your social and emotional abundance. This exercise is transformative because it reminds you of a fundamental truth. You've never needed the validation of that specific person to be valuable. You've always had value. You've always been worthy of attention and affection. You simply forgot it while chasing someone who didn't value you. And here's the final paradox. When you truly internalize this truth, when you really start living from this place of abundance rather than scarcity, that's precisely when you become irresistible to the person who previously ignored you. Not because you're doing something to impress them, but because you've returned to being the magnetic and confident person you truly are. Neil Strauss summed it up perfectly. The best way to attract what you desire is to become what you desire. If you want attention, give attention to yourself first. If you want appreciation, appreciate yourself first. If you want love, love yourself first. This isn't just a nice phrase for a motivational poster. It's a deep psychological law that will change all your relationships. Because deep down, when someone ignores you, it's not really about you. It's about an imbalance in the relational dynamic, about unexpressed expectations, about unconscious patterns that both of you are perpetuating. When you make the conscious decision to break your part of the pattern, the entire dynamic changes, and so we come to the end of our journey. We've explored the 5 fundamental principles for regaining the attention of someone who's ignoring you. Conscious unavailability. the paradox of interest, the power of strategic silence, the principle of investment, and social proof with the mirror effect. But the deepest truth I hope you take away today is this: the real objective should never be simply to regain someone's attention. The objective should be to reclaim yourself, to rediscover your intrinsic value, to rebuild your confidence from within. Because when you do that, you not only regain the attention of the person who was ignoring you, but you fundamentally transform how you relate to all people in your life. The great paradox of human relationships is that when you stop desperately needing someone, that's when you become truly capable of connecting with that person from a place of abundance, not lack. From a place of conscious choice, not emotional dependence. Neil Strauss spent years studying these principles, applying them, refining them, and the conclusion he reached is surprisingly simple. True seduction is never about tricks or techniques. It's about self-transformation. It's about becoming the best version of yourself, not to impress others, but because you owe it to yourself. So I ask you, are you ready to stop chasing and start attracting? Are you willing to do the inner work necessary to reclaim your power? If the answer is yes, write in the comments, "I choose my peace." Let's see how many here are ready for this transformation. If this video has been valuable to you, make sure to like it, share it with someone you think could benefit from these tips, and of course, subscribe and activate the bell to receive notifications of future videos. Remember that your personal transformation is the surest path to more authentic and satisfying relationships. And one last thought for you to reflect on: perhaps being ignored wasn't a curse, but a gift. A wake-up call to remember who you truly are, to reclaim your personal power. Perhaps in retrospect, you'll discover it was exactly what you needed to evolve into a more authentic and powerful version of yourself. No matter what happens with that specific relationship, what matters is who you become in the process.